Welcome back, Defenders. The last 24 hours have been interesting. If you want to watch the entire interaction between President Zelensky, Donald Trump, and JD Vance, I'll link the 50-minute video down below. You can watch it for yourself. This video already has 1.6 million views in a single day. So I think that many of you have already seen the clips or you've seen the interview. And for the first 30 minutes, it was more or less normal. Donald Trump likes to ramble, Donald Trump likes to lie, but it wasn't hostile, it wasn't confrontational, really until the last 7 minutes. So if you just want to watch the last 7 minutes, this is unhinged. This is insane. Donald Trump is insane. JD Vance more or less knows what he's doing, but he's also insane. There is no justifiable reason for these two men to be yelling Russian disinformation, Russian propaganda at the president of Ukraine when he's their guest. I don't think President Zelensky was out of line, defending himself, defending Ukraine, and defending his people from Russian propaganda coming from the vice president's mouth. So this wouldn't have gone bad. It wouldn't have blown up unless JD Vance was there. And I'm going to explain something to you guys. There's no reason for JD Vance to be there. The vice president doesn't live at the White House. The vice president doesn't even work at the White House. The vice president is the president of the Senate. His office is in the Capitol building. His only job is to preside over the Senate and cast tie-breaking votes. So who is the most knowledgeable person that Donald Trump could have sitting on his left-hand side during this meeting? And it's not JD Vance. JD Vance is younger than me. He only served for 4 years in the U.S. Senate before Peter Thiel and Elon Musk demanded that Donald Trump pick him to be his vice president. So JD Vance was only there as a proxy for Peter Thiel and Elon Musk to trigger this event. JD Vance knew exactly what he needed to say to upset Trump and to get Trump to start yelling at President Zelensky. And the White House machine, the White House operation is behind JD Vance, not Donald Trump. Here is a quote. "Have you said thank you once?" This is from the White House Twitter channel, as if this is supposed to be some kind of gotcha moment. The Vice President of the United States confronting the dictator of Ukraine. "Why haven't you been thanking us for all the military aid and support we've given you?" And this is the best Maga can do, to smear and destroy President Zelensky. Why don't you say thank you to us continuously, all the time, every time we see you? When President Zelensky does. Zelensky has thanked the United States 33 times on camera since 2022. I could play for you the clips of President Zelensky thanking the American people, thanking the American government for their assistance. But that's not the point. JD Vance and Elon Musk don't care about the truth. They don't care about facts. They're just trying to smear the president of Ukraine. So President Zelensky, to troll JD Vance, has been thanking European leaders on Twitter. He just says, "Thank you for your support." Anytime a European leader expresses their support for Ukraine. So he's done this about 30 or 40 times. "Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support." It's a good dig at JD Vance for being a douchebag. And for my European friends, I know you want Americans protesting, you want them rioting. So here is a spontaneous demonstration that formed in Vermont. JD Vance left Washington, D.C. to go to Vermont for some event, and he was greeted with pro-Ukrainian protesters in Vermont.
For Vice President JD Vance and his family following yesterday's fiasco there in the Oval Office with Ukrainian President Zelensky. There's some new video now we have showing the Vice President being greeted by protesters holding anti-Vance, pro-Ukraine signs as he makes his way there to Vermont for a ski resort vacation. More protesters met the Vance family out.
So Donald Trump and JD Vance just destroyed the transatlantic partnership that has kept the Western world safe for 80 years. And rather than spend the weekend trying to repair it, they both went on vacation. JD Vance is skiing in Vermont, and Donald Trump is playing golf at Mar-a-Lago. And protests are spontaneously breaking out across America. A common place that people are now gathering is in front of Tesla dealerships. This is a crowd chanting Zelensky is a hero outside a Tesla dealership in Manhattan. People in America really hate Elon Musk now. Elon Musk's approval rating is like 20%. And if you still own or drive a Tesla, my question for you is, what the hell are you doing? Elon Musk has already chosen a side. He fights for China and Russia. He fights for autocracies. And he's trying to bring down all Western liberal democracies in the world at the moment. So this event was scripted. The key players were put there to trigger Trump. Was Trump in on it? I don't think so. I think Trump genuinely wanted to sign this mineral rights deal because Trump thought he was getting $500 billion. But there was no reason for JD Vance to be sitting right here. And the questions that were asked, I'll link the entire 50 minutes down below. I'll link the last 7 minutes where they start yelling at each other. But who the heck is this guy that would ask such a stupid question when time and space in the Oval Office is limited? And this was one of the questions that was prioritized. I want to play this clip.
My second question for President Zelensky. Do you ever, why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country's office and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if you, do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting
I don't have such.
office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Do you own a suit? And Zelensky responds, I will wear a costume once this war is finished. The man who asked this question was Brian Glenn from a pro-Trump network called Real American Voices. And he's Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend. The most pro-Russian congressman, Moscow Marjorie, and her boyfriend was allowed to ask President Zelensky a question in the Oval Office. And this is a gotcha moment for Maga. They think they're winning. President Zelensky doesn't say thank you enough. President Zelensky won't wear a suit to the White House. President Zelensky is undeserving of America's support. That's their entire argument. It's so simple and so stupid. So we have to invoke the legacy of Winston Churchill. When Winston Churchill visited the United States, trying to get their support prior to the United States entering World War II, and Winston Churchill did not wear a suit. And in the Oval Office during this meeting is the bust of Winston Churchill. And this is shameful for me as an American. Could you imagine Winston Churchill coming to the United States in 1940? The Germans are killing their people. The Nazis are bombing their cities. And then President Roosevelt yells at Winston Churchill, you need to negotiate. You should want peace. Why won't you just surrender to the Nazis? There is no historic parallel between Roosevelt and Trump. Trump is a coward. And concerning this Maga talking point about why won't Zelensky wear a suit in the White House, there is another individual who refuses to wear a suit in the White House, but he's the richest man in the world and he purchased the White House, so I guess he doesn't need to wear a suit. He can wear whatever the hell he wants. You know who doesn't have a problem with Zelensky not wearing a suit? The King of England doesn't have a problem with Zelensky wearing casual attire as he is traveling constantly, as he is meeting with injured, wounded, sick people all the time. It is not appropriate to wear expensive, designer, fancy suits while your people are dying in a war. This is a decision he made 3 years ago. And Maga believes it's some kind of gotcha moment where Americans will then give up support for Ukraine. And I can prove this was a setup because Russian state media was in the Oval Office. Russian state media reporter for TASS gained access, but was later removed from the Trump-Zelensky meeting. The White House is saying this individual didn't have approval to be in this gathering, because Russia and Ukraine are at war with each other. And this was a Russian state media reporter who got into the Oval Office without approval. This should be the #1 news story in America, but it's not, because nobody's really surprised, because all JD Vance does is repeat Kremlin talking points along with Elon Musk. So the Russians are celebrating. They got exactly what they paid for when they did everything they could think of to help Trump win this election. Here is Dmitry Medvedev. The insolent pig finally got a proper slapdown in the Oval Office. And Donald Trump is right. The Kyiv regime is gambling with World War III. There was a moment in the interaction where Donald Trump repeated that. Then unless the Ukrainians just surrender and give Russia everything they want, then this could trigger World War III. And the reaction from conservative corporate media? This is shocking. This is deeply concerning. This is how Fox News host Jesse Waters reacted to this altercation in the Oval Office.
We run the world. This is America's world. He's our proxy. This ends when we say it ends. It doesn't end when Zelensky, if he wants to go it alone, go it alone. I'm glad we helped him. Russia invaded. We got his...
This is an American broadcaster, a man who I assume calls himself a journalist, and he actually said, "We run the world. This is America's world, and he's our proxy. It will all end when we decide it ends." Even if this were true, guys, why would you publicly say this? Why would you destroy America's reputation and just label yourself a tyrannical economic and military empire that only exists to subjugate the rest of the world? This is how they're speaking. These people are fascists. They want to embrace this openly and make this the public discourse. When ordinary Americans turn on their TV, they're now hearing American broadcasters tell the American people, this is America's world, and Ukraine is our proxy. And if we want to let them die, we'll let them die. If we want to give them weapons so they can defend themselves, maybe we'll do that. It's our right to decide. This world and everyone in it belongs to America, and they are subordinate to us. They are at our mercy. The only reason why they're not dead is because we show benevolence. That is his attitude. That is what these fascists actually believe. And you're not going to find any courage or hope in the Republican Party. If Donald Trump doesn't adhere to Article 5 of NATO, if Donald Trump doesn't uphold international treaties that have been ratified by Congress, that's a violation of law. And the only people that can hold Donald Trump accountable or remove him from office is Congress. And they're all terrified of him. Every Republican in Congress, in the House of Representatives and the Senate, is terrified of Elon Musk and Donald Trump right now. So I can show you countless clips of Republicans who were good people, people like Senator Lindsey Graham, who have completely flipped on Ukraine, completely flipped on President Zelensky. Here is Senator Lindsey Graham on February 14th. This was only 2 weeks ago. So this clip will be the before and then after.
I want to tell you and your people You're the ally I've been hoping for all my life. Not one American has died defending Ukraine. You've taken our weapons and you've kicked their ass. And I'm very proud to have you as our ally.
You are the ally I have always hoped for. That was 2 weeks ago. Here is Republican Senator Lindsey Graham today.
And I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again. I think most Americans saw a guy that they would not want to go in business with. The way he handled the meeting, the way he confronted the president was just over the top. So I think the relationship between Ukraine and America is important, vitally important. But can Zelensky do a deal with the United States? After what I saw, I don't know.
Senator Lindsey Graham, as he's trashing Ukraine and trashing President Zelensky, he's still wearing his blue and yellow tie. I'm shocked he didn't change his tie prior to going to the podium. And you're not going to find any courage or hope from other administration officials. Here's Senator Marco Rubio after this disastrous meeting. Thank you, President Trump, for standing up for America in a way that no president has ever had the courage to do before. Thank you for putting America first. America is with you. So this guy could just say nothing, and then behind closed doors try and fix this problem. But he's choosing not to, because President Trump has told him not to do anything. Same is true for National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. He says that the U.S. presidential administration unanimously voted to terminate negotiations with President Zelensky. So they're going to try and say they're still supportive of Ukraine, but they're incapable of supporting Ukraine as long as Zelensky is still president. When he's Ukraine's president, he is Ukraine's choice. It's not America's choice who's president of Ukraine. We don't dictate that. The Ukrainian people choose their own free and democratically elected leader, and then we have to find a way to work with that guy, even if he's difficult, which I don't think he was being. But these people in the Trump administration are incapable of getting along with anyone, aside from the Russians. So Donald Trump, after the meeting, he slipped up and he revealed the real reason why he got mad at Zelensky and kicked him out of the White House. Donald Trump speaks for himself.
He's got to say, I want to make peace. He doesn't have to stand there and say about Putin this, Putin that, all negative things. He's got to say, I want to make peace.
So Trump just said that he was annoyed because President Zelensky was saying negative things about Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin this, Vladimir Putin that, all negative things, according to Trump. And Zelensky showed up with photographs to show the war crimes committed by the Russians. And this is the face of a man who doesn't care. He doesn't care about war crimes. He doesn't care about schools or hospitals being bombed. He doesn't care about women being raped or children being abducted. Donald Trump just wants this war to go away so he can focus on his invasions of Canada, Greenland, and Panama, and the property development project in the Gaza Strip. So Trump is annoyed because he's currently in negotiations with Vladimir Putin for an aluminum deal and Arctic trade routes. Donald Trump is in the middle of negotiations completely unrelated to Ukraine, where he's trying to profit for himself. Who wants all this aluminum? Probably Elon Musk. But if you're going to start a trade war with Canada to destroy their economy, to subjugate Canada into becoming the 51st state, then you might need to find alternative sources for certain raw materials. This is why Donald Trump is trying to ally himself with Putin and the Russians. And Donald Trump was getting annoyed by President Zelensky saying bad things about Putin because this might screw up his aluminum deal. It's this stupid, guys. Donald Trump telegraphs it again. This is the statement he put out after this disastrous meeting. We had a very meaningful meeting in the White House today. Much was learned that could never be understood without conversation under such fire and pressure. It's amazing what comes out through emotion, and I have determined that President Zelensky is not ready for peace if America is involved, because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. I don't want advantage, I want peace. Yes, the United States is supposed to be the ally of Ukraine based on our shared values: democracy, respect for international law, human rights, things that Donald Trump doesn't actually care about, which is why he doesn't care about Ukraine, which is why Donald Trump wants America to be allied with Russia. So there were two options when Trump took office on January 20th. He was given both options. Either apply more sanctions on Russia and increase weapons deliveries to Ukraine. That's one path to make Russia stop this war. Or just give up on Ukraine. Halt all military weapons deliveries and then lift all sanctions on Russia. And then clap your hands and walk away from the situation. Donald Trump has made his choice. So he's mad that the Ukrainians won't surrender. That's all he wants. I think Putin would agree to a ceasefire if the Ukrainians gave him the territorial boundaries of these 4 oblasts. But just give me 50 seconds and you'll understand why Ukraine would never agree to this. The Russians want access to the other side of the Dnieper River. They want the city of Kherson back. They took it initially and then they lost it, and now they just want to give it to them. A city with a pre-war population of 300,000 people. The Russians want back to the other side of the river, so when they start this war again, they can quickly take Mykolaiv, Kryvyi Rih, and Odessa. The Russians are also demanding the city of Zaporizhia. This is a city of 700,000 people. Zaporizhia is larger than my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the Russians are demanding this. And Trump is pressuring Ukraine to surrender a city of 700,000 people to the Russians for peace, for a ceasefire that we know the Russians are going to break. If the Russians had control of the city of Zaporizhia to the territorial boundaries, they would then be in artillery range of the city of Dnipro. The city of Dnipro is close to 1 million people. 1 million people who are relatively safe today would then have artillery pointed at them until Putin decides to resume this war. Ukraine is never going to agree to this. No American president, no American leader would agree to something equivalent, to put so many of our lives, our people, in danger. So let me share with you the reaction of Member of Parliament Alexei Goncharenko. He was interviewed yesterday by the LBC.
What are your personal feelings about that meeting yesterday?
Disaster. It's a disaster. It's catastrophe. Unfortunately, it looked like all people there were more speaking about their ego than about what's really going on. I mean, we are dying here in Ukraine every day, and we need this cooperation with the United States, and we want to cooperate with the United States and not to argue with the United States. And it was not Ukraine, it was not the United States who won yesterday. It was Putin. The only one person in the world who is extremely happy right now is Putin. When Putin is happy, it means all other normal people should be super concerned. And it is very bad. It is bad for the United States too, but for Ukraine it can be catastrophic.
So if you're Ukrainian and you're concerned about your relationship with the United States, I do have some good news. And the good news is Donald Trump fights with and argues with everyone and does eventually get over it. These two guys sitting on the couch next to Trump, JD Vance and Marco Rubio, I can show you clips, video, and text messages of these two guys attacking and trashing Trump. JD Vance called Trump Hitler. Marco Rubio said Donald Trump was a disaster for this country. Nobody should be voting for him or supporting him. I can also show you clips of Donald Trump attacking Marco Rubio, calling him unflattering names. So Donald Trump does fight with people, and he is capable of getting over it. In the short term, though, I do think Trump is going to isolate himself. He is going to cut Ukraine off and see if this strategy can work. But it's not going to work. Europe and Ukraine are going to fight on. The Russians are going to fight on. And Donald Trump and JD Vance and Marco Rubio are going to keep getting questions and comments and protesters, because this war is not going to end until Russia stops attacking Ukraine. And Ukraine and Europe can do this on their own, but it would happen faster if the United States were willing to help them. So how do we proceed forward? What's the plan, guys? And I want to read for you the speech from Germany's Minister of Foreign Affairs. This is Annalena Baerbock. And it's a 6-minute clip. She says it better than I can, so I'm just going to read her speech to you guys. I do think this is important for the Western democratic world, because the United States is not on your side. I'm an American, and I'm telling you the truth. Our government has aligned itself with Russia and China to destroy the current international rules-based order and bring back an age of empires. China wants to redraw the maps. Russia wants to redraw the maps. And Donald Trump, with his invasions of Canada, Greenland, Panama, and Gaza, has already indicated he wants to redraw the maps. So here is her speech. It's fantastic. I'm going to read it. Many of you will have slept restlessly tonight in view of the unspeakable videos from the White House. To be honest, me too. Unfortunately, this was not a bad dream, but a harsh reality. Our shock is greater today than before, but so is our commitment to the people of Ukraine, to our own security, and to peace in Europe. Last night underlined a new era of nefariousness has begun, a nefarious time in which we must defend the rules-based international order and the strength of the law more than ever against the might of the strongest. Otherwise, no independent country that has a stronger neighbor will be able to sleep peacefully. All this has been on the cards for some time, and that is why we have been working for some time on new, stronger alliances with all of those in the world who are prepared to continue to stand up for a rules-based international order and the strength of the law rather than the law of the strongest. We as Europeans must take a stronger lead than ever before and stand up resolutely for our interests and the international law, without ifs and buts. It is therefore clear to us that we stand firmly on the side of a sovereign and free Ukraine. Ukraine is part of a free and democratic Europe. In this war against Ukraine, there is no question who is the brutal aggressor and who is the courageous defender, and who is the perpetrator and who is the victim. 3 years ago, Putin's Russia attacked Ukraine in violation of international law for no good reason. People were murdered in terrible ways. Women were brutally raped. Children abducted. Parents separated from their children. And this terror continues to this day. Just recently, a well-known Ukrainian journalist was killed by a drone in her home in Bucha, not far from Kyiv. This latest air war continues unabated every day and every night. So I say clearly and across the Atlantic, what is right and what is wrong should never be irrelevant to us. No one needs and no one wants peace more than Ukrainians. The diplomatic efforts of the United States are of course important here, but such a peace must be just and lasting, and not just a break until Russia's next attack. No one should therefore be mistaken about the enemy. He sits alone in the Kremlin, not in Kyiv or Brussels. We can never accept a perpetrator-victim reversal, because a perpetrator-victim reversal is the opposite of security. It is the opposite of peace and therefore cannot be a good deal. A perpetrator-victim reversal would be the end of international law, and thus also the end of security for the vast majority of countries. And it would also be fatal for the future of the United States, because hardly any country could rely on the credibility of the oldest democracy and the strongest military power if there were to be a perpetrator-victim reversal. We don't want any of that right now. We want to maintain the transatlantic partnership and our joint strength. But yesterday has once again made it abundantly clear that we Europeans, especially as transatlantists, must not be naive. We must stand up for our own interests, for our own values, and our own security, for our own people in Europe. So there's lots that Europe could be doing that they haven't, because they don't want to mess up their economies, because they don't want the stock market or GDP growth to go down. Russia just keeps getting away with stuff when there's a lot more that Europe could be doing today to bring this war to a close. So these are the teams. I know this is a meme, but this is where we are. Do we stand up for international law and respect the sovereignty of nations? Or are we going to go back to an age of empires, where bigger, stronger countries can just attack, invade, and redraw the maps however they see fit? I don't want to live in that world, guys, because it'll be continuous warfare, continuous dying and destruction. On top of that, there's a pretty strong correlation between being a free, democratic, and open society and having a higher standard of living, having a stronger economy. Donald Trump is experimenting with fascism, and he's trying to turn the United States into an autocracy where we don't have the rule of law, where we don't respect international norms and standards. And honestly, Americans, a lot of Americans are okay with trying this or going along with this as long as they think we'll get richer, as long as the stock market keeps going up. So to anybody watching this, still living in a free and democratic country, you have to avoid the United States. Don't come here. Don't come here to do business. Don't come here to do travel. Don't vacation here. And don't buy any American products. And let everyone know you're doing this because of Donald Trump, because of his language and his recklessness and his indifference. We're going to stop the video here. I'll be back tomorrow with a normal update. I've still been fighting something all week, trying to not cough while filming these videos, guys. But I never thought this was even possible. Like, even last year, when I did everything I could to stop Trump from being elected, I didn't think it would get this bad this fast. And that's actually good news that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are moving so fast and reckless. If they had slowly done all this over a year, they probably would have gotten away with it. But people in the United States are furious. They're pissed. And this debacle in the Oval Office exposed Trump as a temperamental baby who can't accomplish anything, who can't work with anyone. And this is going to be extremely detrimental for the United States going forward until we can get rid of Trump and JD Vance. It's going to be a pure nightmare the next 3 years and 10 months, guys. There's no positive way to spend this. I'm sorry. So keep fighting for democracy. Keep fighting for truth. We need your support and your help more than ever. Contact your reps. Don't leave those people alone. Organize on the local level. You have to find groups and associations in your towns, in your communities, where you can meet up in person to plan and organize events. Donating money is great, Showing up in person is great. Writing letters or emails is great. Boycotting stuff is great. This is a team effort. We need everyone to do a little bit in order to stop this trajectory that the world is currently on. That's all for this update video. Till tomorrow, guys. Take care.